Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah.
Today we're going to be tackling some pretty intense stuff.
Oh, yeah.
We're diving into this interview with Billy Carson,
Okay.
and he's a researcher who really kind of pushes the boundaries of what we think we know about,
All
history,
right.
spirituality, all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
We're going to be talking ancient texts,
Yeah.
hidden meanings, and maybe even some alternative explanations for the universe as we know it.
So what's really fascinating about Carson is the way he approaches sources like the Bible,
Right.
something many people might think they're familiar with.
Yeah, definitely.
And he completely flips the script on how we usually interpret them.
Mm-hmm.
Like he really digs deep,
Yeah.
weaving together these ancient texts with scientific discoveries. And honestly, it might make you rethink some pretty fundamental stuff about reality and, spirituality.
So to kind of kick things off, I think it makes sense to start with, his analysis of the Bible. So he makes this pretty bold claim that it might not be the straightforward, divinely inspired text we've been taught to believe.
Right.
Instead, he suggests it could be a manipulated narrative.
Yeah, right off the bat, he dives into the Old Testament.
Okay.
And he argues that the God described in those early books
Mm-hmm.
actually has a lot in common with the entity that later gets labeled as Satan.
Wait, hold on. So are we saying that humanity might have unknowingly been worshiping the bad guy this whole time?
It's a pretty huge claim, right?
Yeah, that's a huge claim.
But Carson backs it up with some pretty specific examples.
Okay.
So like in Deuteronomy,
Mm-hmm.
there's this passage where God commands the Israelites to kill women and children,
Oh, wow.
and even suggests they take virgins as wives.
Oh, okay.
It definitely clashes with that image of a benevolent, loving God that many people hold.
Yeah, it really puts a different spin on things, huh?
It does.
Okay, so that's definitely making me reread some of those passages with a more critical eye. But even if the traditional depiction of God is questionable, does Carson still believe in a higher power?
He does, but he frames it in a very different way.
Okay, how so?
He talks about this concept of God as a frequency.
God is a frequency.
It's a bit of a mind bender,
Hmm.
but he brings in ideas from ancient wisdom traditions and blends them with modern science.
So less about a God in the clouds judging us,
Right.
and more about tapping into some kind of universal energy.
Exactly.
What does that even mean, practically?
So think of it like tuning a radio.
Okay.
To hear a specific station, you need to dial into the right frequency, right?
Yeah.
Carson says it's the same with a higher power.
Okay.
It's not about praying to an external being. It's about aligning yourself with a particular vibrational frequency to connect with that divine energy.
Okay. I think I'm starting to see where that conscious thought X action manifestation idea comes in.
Yeah.
It's all about intentionally tuning our own frequencies to influence reality.
That's it. And
Okay.
he ties this concept to quantum physics.
Quantum physics, okay?
Well, basically, quantum physics tells us that everything in the universe is made up of energy vibrating at different frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
About these chairs we're sitting on.
Yeah.
It's all energy in motion.
So are we saying our thoughts and intentions also have a frequency that can impact the world around us?
That's exactly what Carson argues.
Wow.
And to really understand how powerful this concept could be, he says we need to look back at ancient civilizations and the knowledge they possessed.
Now let's shift gears a little bit and talk about Carson's research on ancient civilizations.
Right.
He really seems to believe they were way more advanced than we give them credit for.
Absolutely.
He points to structures like the pyramids and Machu Picchu as evidence.
Yeah. I mean, how did they build these incredible structures with supposedly limited tools and technology?
Yeah.
It just doesn't add up.
It's really mind-boggling to think about. Even with modern technology, building something like that would be a massive undertaking.
Oh, absolutely. And Carson goes even further, claiming that the Great Pyramid is way older than mainstream archaeology suggests.
Really?
Based on geological evidence, he believes it's at least 36,000 years old.
That blows the whole conventional timeline out of the water.
It really does.
If he's right, it means those ancient Egyptians knew a lot more than we thought.
Exactly. And to understand what they knew, Carson dives into these emerald tablets.
Emerald tablets.
Yeah, these ancient texts were supposedly written by Thoth,
Okay.
an Atlantean priest king who ruled Egypt for a mind-boggling 16,000 years.
Wait, 16,000 years?
16,000 years. That's longer than recorded history.
That's longer than recorded history. What do these tablets even say?
They're like an ancient instruction manual, supposedly containing secrets passed down from a super advanced civilization.
Okay.
Some people even believe they hold the key to unlocking hidden powers within ourselves.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued.
Right.
So how do these emerald tablets connect to the Bible and the idea of a manipulated narrative?
Well, according to Carson, the tablets predate the teachings of Jesus by thousands of years
Okay.
and describe incredibly advanced technologies and spiritual practices.
Mm-hmm.
And here's a really interesting part. There are striking similarities between Thoth's teachings and those of Jesus.
Huh. It's almost like they had a shared source of knowledge.
Yeah.
Maybe Jesus was drawing on this ancient wisdom that had been passed down for millennia.
That's one of the theories Carson puts forward.
Okay.
He believes that these ancient civilizations had access to a level of knowledge and technology that we can barely even fathom today.
So if these ancient cultures were so advanced, what happened? Where did all that knowledge go?
That's a great question, and one that Carson explores in depth.
Okay.
But before we get into that, let's talk about another area where he challenges conventional thinking, the creation story.
All right, so Carson takes issue with the traditional Adam and Eve narrative.
He does.
What's his take on the origins of humanity?
Well, he starts by pointing out the scientific impossibility of two individuals creating a genetically diverse population of billions.
Yeah.
I mean, just from a purely biological standpoint, it doesn't hold up.
That's a good point. You need a pretty large gene pool to avoid some serious issues down the line.
Exactly.
So what does he propose as an alternative explanation?
This is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Carson brings in the Sumerian tablets and the Anunnaki.
The Anunnaki. Those
Yeah.
are those ancient Sumerian gods, right?
Right.
I remember reading something about them being depicted as reptilian beings.
Exactly. According to these ancient texts, the Anunnaki were advanced beings who came to Earth and genetically manipulated existing hominids to create a workforce.
Oh.
And here's the kicker. Carson connects this back to Genesis 1.26, where God says, "Let us make man in our image."
Wait, is he suggesting the us in that passage refers to the Anunnaki?
Yes.
So instead of being created in God's image, we're actually descendants of an alien workforce.
That's the core of Carson's argument. It's a pretty radical reinterpretation of human origins.
Yeah.
And it forces us to rethink where humanity fits in the grand scheme of things.
That's a lot to process. So we've got potentially inaccurate depictions of God in the Bible,
Right.
advanced civilizations with lost knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
and the possibility that we're the product of alien genetic engineering.
Yeah.
Where do we even go from here?
Well, this is where we get into some even more mind-blowing stuff. Carson takes this whole idea of a manipulated reality and connects it to modern science,
Okay.
specifically the concept of a holographic matrix.
Wait, a holographic matrix? Like we're all living in a simulation?
It might sound like science fiction, but Carson brings in some pretty compelling evidence from both ancient wisdom and modern physics to support this idea.
Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat. Tell me more about this holographic matrix concept.
So imagine the universe as like this giant, incredibly complex hologram,
Okay.
and everything we perceive as solid is actually just an illusion.
Whoa, okay, so it's like those optical illusions?
Exactly.
Where you think you're seeing a 3D object, but it's really just a flat image tricking your brain?
It is. And Carson doesn't just throw this out there as like a cool sci-fi idea.
Right.
He actually pulls in some pretty fascinating evidence from physics.
Oh, really?
Like there are actual scientists out there studying the nature of reality
Okay.
at the subatomic level.
Mm-hmm.
And what they're finding is starting to sound a lot like what ancient mystics have been saying for centuries.
Huh. So we've got ancient wisdom and cutting-edge science,
Yeah.
both pointing towards this idea that reality might not be what we think it is.
It's pretty mind-blowing, isn't it?
It is. So if we're living in this holographic matrix,
Yeah.
who created it? Who's running the show?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right.
And honestly, Carson doesn't have a definitive answer.
Okay.
But he does explore a few possibilities.
Okay, but what?
One idea is that the matrix is shaped by our collective consciousness.
Okay.
Like we're all contributing to this grand illusion with our thoughts, beliefs, and actions.
So it's like we're all co-creating this reality together, even if we're not consciously aware of it.
Exactly, and it kind of ties back to that whole waking up from the waking sleep concept.
Mm-hmm.
If we're truly co-creating reality,
Yeah.
we need to be mindful of the energy we're putting out there.
Right.
Our thoughts, our beliefs, our actions, they all have this ripple effect
Okay.
on the entire matrix.
So negativity breeds more negativity, but positive energy can actually help create a more harmonious reality for everyone.
Precisely.
It's like the butterfly effect, but on a cosmic scale.
Exactly, and that's why Carson is so big on personal growth and self-awareness.
Okay.
He believes the more we understand ourselves and work towards our own healing and evolution,
Hmm.
the more we can contribute to a positive shift in the collective consciousness.
So this is all very philosophical and mind-bending, but what does it mean for our everyday lives?
Yeah.
How can we actually apply these concepts to create positive change?
That's a great question, and Carson does offer some
Mm.
guidance. He reminds us that we're not just passive observers in this matrix.
Mm-hmm.
We actually have the power to shape our own reality.
Yeah, so we're talking about aligning our intentions with our actions.
Exactly.
Like if we want to see a more peaceful world, we need to start by cultivating peace within ourselves.
It's about becoming conscious creators of our own experience.
Okay.
And remember, Carson isn't just pulling these ideas out of thin air.
Right.
He draws on his own personal experiences.
Yeah, he did have that wild story about
Right.
beings coming through his wall.
Yeah.
I know some folks might write that off as crazy,
Sure.
but it sounds like he sees it as evidence that the boundaries of reality are much more fluid than we tend to think.
It definitely challenges our conventional understanding of what's possible.
Yeah.
But if we're open to the idea that solid matter might ultimately be an illusion, as quantum physics suggests,
Mm-hmm.
then maybe passing through walls isn't as far-fetched as it sounds.
Okay, now my head is really spinning.
I know, it's a lot.
But I have to admit, it's kind of liberating to consider that there might be so much more to reality than meets the eye.
That's the beauty of exploring these kinds of ideas.
Yeah.
It forces us to question our assumptions and open ourselves up to new possibilities.
It does. And honestly, that's what I find so intriguing about Carson.
Mm-hmm.
He's not afraid to push those boundaries
Right.
and ask those big, uncomfortable questions
Yeah.
that make us re-examine everything.
She's like a modern-day explorer.
Yeah.
But instead of searching for lost continents or hidden treasures,
Right.
he's excavating hidden truths that have been buried within ancient wisdom and scientific discoveries.
And the best part is he's inviting us to join him on this adventure of discovery.
Exactly.
He wants us to become truth seekers.
To question everything we've been told
Mm.
and discover our own unique role in shaping this incredible holographic matrix we call reality.
This has been an incredible journey so far.
It has.
But before we dive into the final part of our deep dive,
Okay.
we want to hear from you. What stands out to you the most from what we've explored?
What resonates with you?
What makes you go, I need to ponder that a bit more?
Take a moment to really reflect on what we've discussed.
Yeah.
Are you ready to embrace the possibility that you might be a co-creator of reality?
Okay.
We'll be right back to explore some more of these mind-bending concepts
All right.
and what they might mean for our future.
All right, so we're back,
Yeah.
ready to kind of wrap up this incredible journey into the world of Billy Carson.
It's been a wild ride.
It really has. We've covered a lot of ground,
We have.
from questioning, traditional narratives to exploring this mind-bending concept of a holographic matrix.
Yeah, and the idea that we might not just be these passive observers in reality,
Right.
but active participants, co-creating the world around us with our thoughts, beliefs, actions.
It's a lot to take in.
It is.
You might be wondering, okay, but where do we go from here?
Right.
How do we actually put all of this into practice?
Well, Carson doesn't give us like a step-by-step guide, but he does offer some valuable clues.
Okay, like what?
He emphasizes the importance of self-awareness,
Okay.
critical thinking, and continuous learning.
Mm-hmm.
He encourages us to question everything, to dig deeper, and to really challenge the status quo.
It's like he's saying, don't just accept what you're told.
Right.
Go out there and discover your own truth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And remember that powerful formula he keeps coming back to, conscious thought X, action, manifestation.
Right.
It suggests that we have the power to shape our reality
Yeah.
through our intentions and our actions.
So if we want to see a more, positive and harmonious world,
Yeah.
we need to start by cultivating those qualities within ourselves.
Right. It all begins with inner transformation.
Okay, but how do we actually do that? How do
Yeah.
we tune into that higher frequency
Right.
and connect with that divine energy that Carson talks about?
Well, there are many paths you can explore.
Okay.
Carson suggests looking into ancient wisdom traditions, meditation practices, and even modern scientific approaches to consciousness expansion.
So it's really about finding what resonates with you
It is.
and helps you tap into your own inner power.
Yeah, it's a journey of self-discovery, isn't it?
Yeah.
A process of waking up to our true potential
Mm-hmm.
and realizing that we're capable of so much more than we've been led to believe.
It's not always easy, though, is it?
It's not.
It requires effort, dedication, and a willingness to step outside of our comfort zones.
Absolutely.
We might have to confront limiting beliefs, face our fears, and embrace new perspectives
Hmm.
that challenge everything we thought we knew.
But the rewards can be immense.
Yeah.
Carson believes that as we raise our individual consciousness,
Yeah.
we contribute to the evolution of the collective consciousness.
It's like we're all in this together,
Yeah.
working towards a more enlightened and harmonious future.
And that's a pretty inspiring thought.
It is.
Even if you don't agree with all of Carson's theories,
Right.
he's offering a message of hope and empowerment. He's reminding us that we are not just helpless pawns in a predetermined game.
We have the ability to choose our own adventure,
Exactly.
to co-create a reality that aligns with our highest aspirations.
And that's a message worth holding on to,
Yeah.
even if it makes our heads spin a little.
Now, as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with one final provocative thought
Okay.
inspired by Carson's insights.
All right, shoot.
If we are indeed living in a holographic matrix,
Mm-hmm.
and if consciousness plays a role in shaping that reality,
Yeah.
then what are the true limits of human potential?
What could we achieve if we fully tapped into that power?
That's a question I'm going to be pondering for a long time.
Me too.
Well, thanks for taking us on this incredible journey.
It's been my pleasure.
It's been a wild ride.
It has. And remember, the journey of exploration doesn't end here.
That's right.
Keep questioning, keep seeking, and keep expanding your awareness.
Yeah.
Who knows what incredible truths you might uncover.
Until next time, keep diving deep.